Hello, everyone. I am Trevor,
And I am Bill.
and this is
Bill and Trevor's Excellent Adventure.
Hmm. All right, let's pick up where we left off.
And where we left off, we were talking about Jesus' words when he's coming into Jerusalem. There's a great deal of hoopla. And my funny sense of humor, I compare it to Disney's cartoon presentation of Aladdin in Make Way for Prince Ali. It was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus is saying, I came here to die.
Yep.
And I'm not turning back because this is why I came. Father, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And then John has some very interesting commentary on what he just presented.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to read it again, but then I'm going to ask you what you think about it.
Yeah.
It says, though he had done so many signs before them, they still did not believe in him. And then further down, it says, verse 42, nevertheless, many even of the authorities believed in him, but for fear of the Pharisees, they did not confess it so that they would not be put out of the synagogue. Well, if everybody's excited because the Messiah's in town, why is John saying here that they did not believe?
Well, I think it goes back to what you were talking about. It even goes back to even what Isaiah the prophet was saying, how it was mentioned in
You probably reread that. That was a week ago.
Yes, right. That was a week ago. Let me go ahead and read that now.
Verse 40. John 12, verse 40.
Yeah, verse 40. He has blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts, so they can neither see with their eyes nor understand with their hearts, nor turn, and I would heal them. And I think it goes back, especially to what you were saying about that people were expecting basically a wartime Messiah, somebody who's coming over to basically slay Rome or just get them off their backs at least and let them be free. I think when people saw him, they were excited for things that weren't what Jesus was there for. They're not thinking in their heads like, "Oh, I'm so excited for Jesus to come here and die." I'm sure they're here like, "Oh, this is the King of Israel. Let's lift him up. Let's make sure he takes his rightful place." And so I think when John says that they don't believe, he's probably more saying that they may believe that he is the Messiah. They just don't know what the Messiah is supposed to do. At least that's what in my head it comes to. And I think also if you put another spin on it, like their belief is limited or it's superseded by, for example, the Pharisees, their fear of being going out of the synagogue.
Yeah. And this, I forgot how you just said it. Say it again. Their faith was limited or something. What did you say?
Yeah, their belief was limited or superseded.
Superseded. Yeah, big word there. I'm gonna go with limited.
Okay.
In the beginning of John, we read about his first encounters with the disciples that he made into apostles later.
Okay.
And it said there that they had faith, they believed. And then later on, after he turned into water, it says they put their faith in him. And then later on, it talks about their faith. I believe that their faith or believing is not binary.
Yeah.
It's not either off or on, faithful or faithless. I think that it's more like, what's the word I'm looking for now? Analog. You can crank it up.
Yeah.
So I think that they had, enough faith to recognize he's the Messiah, but like you said, not enough faith to change their mindset about what that was supposed to mean. And Jesus had been saying what that's supposed to mean. And once again, stay tuned in the other Gospels for more on Jesus' teaching.
Yeah.
But they just couldn't get it.
Yeah.
And this prophecy that you were reading out of Isaiah, I did some pondering on that. Have you actually flipped back to the Old Testament to see how Isaiah said it?
I actually have not. Not in a while, at least.
Well,
let's go back to it.
If you can find it real fast, you have a footnote to tell you where to look because I don't remember.
I don't have a footnote, but I have a search function.
Because I'll tell you what it says because I looked it up. I just don't remember the verse.
Yeah, okay, you got it.
In Isaiah, it says that they have closed their eyes. But John says he has blinded their eyes.
Yes. Okay.
So I've been doing a lot of reading lately and, learning about these different manuscripts and texts. And so when I saw that and noticed it, because when I read it in John, it kind of jarred with what I thought I had remembered reading from before, and I looked it up and my memory was not wrong. It
Yep.
really does say it differently in Isaiah. And so I went to my buddy Chat GPT and asked him, what's up with this?
Hmm.
And it's not a matter of John necessarily using a different text. John is just being interpretive in the way that he is rendering the Old Testament, which is fairly common practice in the New Testament.
Hmm.
But it does kind of speak to the point that John is trying to make, that God is moving in history and he was keeping people from getting it,
Yeah.
which I find shocking.
Yeah, and it brings me back to Exodus. Even we talk about he hardened Pharaoh's heart
Mm.
like 7 different times,
Yeah.
and he kept them from getting it so he could show the Jews like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm here for you.
So here is God holding people back. And then you have in verse 42, many of the authorities believed in him, but for fear of the Pharisees, they did not confess it. So they were not put out of the synagogue.
Hmm.
For they loved the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God. Give me some commentary on that.
So, well, let's say I sometimes I think about this from a perspective is like I would love to know from their perspective what it was like, before Jesus came. They had a good thing going. They were not really following God, but they made themselves out to be we are God's interpreters basically. And now all of a sudden here's this guy that comes along and says like, "Oh, I'm actually, that guy you guys claim to worship? I'm his son. Yeah, I came down here to, heal some people
Yeah.
die as well."
Trading on their position in the political. I got an
Exactly.
email, not an email, a snail mail, something in my mailbox, my
Mm.
physical mailbox, from a certain politician. And I was deeply offended
Mm.
because one of the bullets that he put about himself was, found Christ while he was in college.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, okay, if a liar tells me he's telling the truth, should I believe him?
Probably not.
If a politician tells me he found Christ, should I believe him?
Probably not.
Why are you telling me this? What evidence are you giving me so that I conclude that you found Christ?
Mm.
Or could it be that you want to leverage my prejudice in favor of Christianity to try to get me to accept something that I would not have accepted otherwise?
Yeah.
I'm incredibly skeptical of every politician that wants to play the faith card.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just like these guys who are playing the faith card all the time because they got a good thing going.
Hmm.
And I can imagine how God is going to feel about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyway, let's keep reading because Jesus has some stuff that I want to get to in the last 3 verses of chapter 12.
Let's do it. Okay. Then we'll pick up in 44.
Alrighty then.
Then Jesus cried out, "Whoever believes in me does not believe in me only, but in the one who sent me. The one who looks at me is seeing the one who sent me. I have come into the world as a light, so that no one who believes in me should stay in the darkness. If anyone hears my words but does not keep them, I do not judge that person, for I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. There is a judge for the one who rejects me and does not accept my words. The very words I have spoken will condemn them at the last day. For I did not speak on my own, but the Father who sent me commanded me to say all that I have spoken. I know that his command leads to eternal life. So whatever I say is just what the Father has told me to say."
So, have you ever heard of good news, bad news jokes?
Oh, absolutely.
I got some good news and some bad news. And ever since I was in college,
Mm.
this passage to me rings like a good news, bad news joke.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
Especially for somebody who comes from a background like I came from. Now, you're too young to appreciate it, but when I was a kid, there was this TV show called Sanford and Son.
Okay.
And Sanford was an irascible old man, and he and his son were running a junkyard. and they had some relatives, and it was presenting a lot of humor from an African American perspective. And one of Fred Sanford's relatives, maybe his sister, was saying, "You're a heathen, Fred, a vile heathen," because he was completely off the chain.
Ah, okay.
And I laughed because I used that expression to characterize myself before I was called. I was not religious. I was a vile heathen. So consider how it hit me when Jesus says in verse 47, "If anyone hears my words and does not keep them, I do not judge him." Wahoo!
Yeah. That's great.
Great news, right? "For I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world." Wait, what? Save the world? What are you talking about?
Mm.
And then another TV show that you're too young to appreciate. Let's see if I can remember the name of it. Oh man, I can't remember the name of it. But it was this little black kid who'd been adopted by a very wealthy white man,
Mm.
and the kid was famous. What you talking about? What you talking about, Willis? What you talking about, Jesus? Came to say, and it goes back to John 3, which we have talked about, and how everybody loves to hang John 3:16 in the end zone of football games.
Yep.
For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son. But nobody wants to talk about why Jesus had to come and do that in the first place.
Nope.
And it is because there is a certainty of judgment coming.
Yep. Yep.
And Jesus saying, look, it's not out of animosity that I'm coming and saying these things.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't come to judge where I'm trying to rescue people.
Yeah.
Verse 48. "The one who rejects me and does not receive my words has a judge. That word that I have spoken will judge him on the last day."
Mm.
So the way I visualize the judgment, because as you know by now, when I read, I just try to visualize. So have you ever been to Washington, D.C. in front of the Lincoln Memorial?
I have not.
Well, you need to go there. You're an American citizen. You need to go see that.
Mm.
It's got this massive statue of Abraham Lincoln sitting on a chair, and it's much larger than real life.
Yeah.
And so I visualize this as God like that, seated on a throne, about that proportion to a regular human being. And stretched out before the throne, there's a long line of people.
Yep.
And everybody has to wait their turn and come before the throne at judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And in God's hands, now this is dated because I'm an old dude. You have to come up with a new technological way to represent this. But back in the day when I was a young man, they had these things called DVD players. And you could stick a little silvery disc in that thing and you could watch TV on it.
So if God is still using a DVD, that'd be interesting.
And he's got in one hand a portable DVD player, and the disc has a record of your whole life.
Mm.
And in the other hand, he's got the Bible.
Mm.
And you don't get to say anything
Mm-mm.
at judgment. When it's your turn, he's going to compare your life to what's in the Bible. And if they don't match, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's saying here, that very word which I spoke will judge him on the last day. For I have not spoken on my own authority, but the Father who sent me has himself given me a command, what to say and what to speak. And I know that his commandment is eternal life. What I say, therefore, I say as the Father has told me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know a lot of people's reaction against Jesus, a lot of people's reaction against Christianity is the idea of, I don't want to be judged.
Yeah.
A lot of people just don't want to grasp the concept of there being a hard right and a hard wrong.
Yeah.
And an objective standard for what is right and what is wrong, and consequences if you don't do right.
Mm-hmm.
But the universe is founded on the principle of cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
And your willingness to believe something that's true does not affect the consequences that come from your choices. You get to choose to do right, or you could choose to do wrong, but
Yeah.
you don't get to choose the consequences that come from your choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm saying that because when we start talking about judgment and Christianity, I know a lot of people are not necessarily disposed towards, yeah, I'm for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But look at it this way. Given that there is a reality that the universe was made a certain way by the one who made it with consequences that got designed into it, when would you like to find out the rules of the game? Before or after it's game over?
Ugh, yeah. Before, for sure.
And Jesus is saying here, his commandment is eternal life. Contrary to what I thought when I was first being called to Christ,
Mm.
God was not trying to interfere with my good time.
Mm-mm.
God was trying to give me a good time. I was just too stupid to understand it at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having followed the commands for a lifetime, I can look at the results that have come from the decisions I have made trying to obey what I read in the scriptures. And I compare my consequences to the consequences of those whom I have known who have not made those kind of choices. And I'm better off.
Mm. Yeah.
All of which persuades me to believe that Jesus actually knew what he was talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can attest to that too. For not as long as you, but definitely long enough to see my friends split off a different path. And yeah.
And they eat consequences from that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes the consequences are immediate. Sometimes they're a long time coming,
Mm-hmm.
but there are consequences.
Yeah.
And so I want to leave people who may be resistant to this part of the message as we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
When would you rather find out the way the world really is? In the words of those famous poets, Run DMC, is like that, and that's the way it is.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I it's definitely a way to I've never thought about it like that, and I never put in perspective finding out basically the rules of the game when you're for some people halfway through life and thinking, "Oh, I've been doing it wrong this whole time," or is it like, "Nah, there's no way it's like that," you know? It's it's definitely that's like a how do you say it? It's like a turning point in your mind.
Yeah.
That's like a you either accept or reject it, and that basically is like your fork in the road, which one you going down.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a paradigm shift.
Yeah, that's the way you put it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're at time again.
All right. Well, I have been Trevor.
And I have been Bill, and we have been Bill and Trevor's Excellent Adventure.